It's the night before I go to America and I'm so scared. I'm just so convinced something's gonna go wrong. After many hours of travelling, I arrived in the Boston Back Bay to a supple mist of rain. I just went outside and it's pouring with rain, so I've come back up to my room to get my raincoat. This was a last minute pack because I'm here for Halloween and I thought I'd just go as Coraline. It's raining a lot, as you can tell. I had a very slow evening at the B&B. I journaled and read and listened to the steady chime of raindrops from my window outside. The next morning it was raining too, and although several people offered their condolences for the bad weather, I thought Boston looked its prettiest in the rain. Rain, I think, makes colours even more vibrant than they are. And what time is more vibrant than New England in October? I walked down to Boston Public Gardens, which were close by to my B&B, and this is actually the oldest public park in the US. It's as beautiful and atmospheric as you'd imagine. There are so many statues and people wandering around, and it's especially wonderful in the mist. It was overshadowed in plumes and rivulets of colour, ambers and auburns and ochres, colours everywhere, offset by a mist so thick that the skyscrapers and brickwork beyond the park were mostly invisible. I also visited this Edgar Allen Poe memorial and statue. Poe is one of my favourite American writers. The statue is made of bronze, but it's this wonderful Olympic blue, which fits so well with the gloomy intensity of Poe's poetry. I just love how defiant Poe is here, striding through Boston, not gone but still very much here. His cloak really does seem to move in this wave of metal, and the briefcase with the telltale heart and the raven leaking out of it is just a work of art. I think it's so cool to have him in the centre of Boston, like metaphorically showing how he does continue to be read and he is continually loved by people. I also went back to the park to do some writing, and I went to this park a lot while I was here. It was just a very nice space, energy and atmosphere in the space. The air over the lake was damp in the way of rose petals and grass, drunk with dew and glistening. There is water inside the rose, ephemerally through the skin, its epithelial peel and peeling ethereal. It moves with you, the glimmer of dew, but is otherwise still. In the afternoon, I went to Cambridge, which is where Harvard is. I went on a public tour of Harvard, which was student-led, and I loved learning about the history. I knew this was the largest higher education institution in the States, founded in 1636, but I didn't realise how rich that history was, and that John Harvard was never a vice-chancellor or any kind of founder of the university, but instead was the person to donate the land which was used for Harvard Yard, and also 400 books from his personal library. And after lunch, I went to the Harvard bookshop, which was okay. Not the best bookshop I visited in Boston, I'll say. But I went to the Harvard Art Museum after that, which was brilliant. In particular, I spent most time in the Dare to Know exhibition, which was filled with Enlightenment art. This exhibition is worth taking a trip for. It was so good. It's one of the best art exhibitions I've seen.
I've just left Harvard Art Museum, which was excellent. They had an exhibition on with lots of Enlightenment art, and it was just very well curated. I was really impressed by how much variety they had. I'm now going to get an Uber back to the area I'm staying. It's raining. I would walk, but it's like an hour and a half. Cambridge is one of the nicest places. I visited all of the colours.
And that brings me to the end of my first full day in Boston, so let's get on to Wednesday. I walked around, got soaked, and looked for the key sites in the area. So I saw the Athenaeum building. And I also went to this really cool secondhand bookshop. I already know that I'm going to be asked about which books I picked up whilst I was in Boston, and I actually only bought one. I did go into a few different bookshops, and the one on Beacon Hill especially is so beautiful. You should definitely go. It's so quaint, and the attention to detail is just remarkable. But books in America are so much more expensive than books in the UK. I was not expecting that. I was expecting to buy quite a few books while I was in America, but they're just really expensive. I did buy one book in Boston, but only one. I got this from Postman Books. Such a well-curated bookshop. A huge table of classics, but with very nice covers, beautiful editions of them. And so I picked up this one, which is Voltaire's Candide. I haven't read, but it's one that I have been meaning to read. And I mean, I'm sorry, but this cover is just, it's exceptional. But it was $17, and I think if I bought this in the UK, I would have paid maybe £12 for it. I kind of wanted to buy at least one book in Boston because I think the physical object of the book also holds a story within it, and I know that whenever I look at this book now, I'll think of my trip to Boston. They've got this list of the characters, and I just love these little caricatures, and they've also got a map. So that's my very small book haul from Boston, and now I'm going to show you my favourite day that I spent in the area, where I went to Ipswich and to Crane Beach and Crane Estate, which is where they filmed part of Little Women. I wasn't even in Boston, but this was the best day of that week that I spent in and around Boston. It was just magical, and you'll see what I mean as soon as you see the clips. The world got more and more rural, more and more colourful as we journeyed north, and there were vast seas of white mist beyond the train tracks. I popped into this coffee shop and had one of the best cappuccinos I've ever had. I would recommend their cappuccinos. and I eventually arrived here at one of the most spectacular places I have ever visited.
I'm here at Crane Beach in Ipswich, which is where they filmed Little Women. And the guy was just saying that he met Emma Watson and Saoirse Ronan and Meryl Streep when they came to film here. Got to say, it is a bit spooky though, because I'm the only person on this beach. It's massive and there's so much mist. So I'm a little kind of scared maybe to be here by myself. But it's also stunning and so worth me coming to. Currently it's half a mile's walk down the beach to get to Crane Estate, which is the other place I want to visit. Loveliest beach I've ever been to, and I've never been on a beach completely by myself before. I've at least been with my family or like a friend, a horde of people. This is the path up here that I'm going to take to get up to the castle on the hill.
After that, I headed to Crane Estate, which is where they filmed the parts of Little Women where Amy is in Europe. This building was very much like a National Trust property in England and surrounded by trees and mist and Greenland.
This is Crane House, where they filmed part of Little Women, and it's so beautiful, especially in the mist with all of the red trees. My coat is so damp.
And I sat here to eat my lunch and was just honestly overwhelmed by the beauty here. I didn't want to leave, and I actually really wish that I'd stayed in Ipswich for a couple of nights. One of my favourite places I've visited so far in America.
I want to know, why is New England so much more colourful?
I'm back in Boston Public Gardens, possibly my favourite spot in the city. There's a street performer playing California Dreaming across the pond and piles of leaves frosting the grass. The water is so still you can see the colours of coats in the black, glittering and passing in overpasses of pigment. There's a tree in front of me, spindled and sparsely strung, toasted orange, the colour of tea cakes and cardamom pods. In the afternoon this day, I went to the Vatican exhibition, which I would highly recommend. It was an immersive experience like the Van Gogh one, if you saw that, and it, of course, just made me want to visit the actual Vatican even more. I thought I was filming, but I just spoke for ages without actually filming anything. It's Saturday today, which means that it's my 6th day in Boston, which is unbelievable, my 5th full day, and I'm loving Boston so much. It's everything I dreamed it would be, honestly. It's just so beautiful, and all of the buildings, I just love the atmosphere. That it's very busy, like it's busier than I thought it would be, even though of course it is a city. I think it's a city of 600,000 though, so it's not actually that big. And I just love how much greenery there is everywhere. There are so many trees, and well, I say greenery, that's the whole point. It's not green. That's why I came in October. It's red. It's orange and red, and there's crimsons on the trees, and all of the leaves are falling at the moment. So you walk through the park and it's literally snowing with leaves. It's unbelievable. But I haven't found there's actually that much literary history that I've necessarily been finding in Boston. I know that there are things, and there are a few bookshops, and Edgar Allen Poe obviously lived in Boston, but I don't know. I feel like it's not necessarily a literary tourism destination in the same way that when I visit Concord and Amherst, it's going to be more about literary tourism. So I'm going to go out for brunch now. I'm staying at a B&B, which means that breakfast is included, and I've had breakfast, like obviously at the hotel every day, because it saves me from buying one of my meals out. But there is a place I really want to try for breakfast. They do acai bowls, and I've just had really good things about them. So every morning I've been saying, oh, I'm gonna go this morning, and I haven't, because I can just have a free breakfast here. But I really want to try it before I leave Boston, and I leave Boston tomorrow. It's also a place where students sometimes work, so I'm gonna bring my laptop and I'm gonna do some writing. I've already done some writing this morning, and then after breakfast I'll go on a walk in the park. I love this daily routine as well. I wake up, I might try and do some writing, go down for breakfast, then go on a walk in the park with a coffee or a tea, and then like wander around town and then do something. But it's a really nice routine, and I think I could stay here for a lot longer. It's 8:39 now, and I wanted to leave at like 8, so let's actually go. This is the book I've just started, so I'll pack this with me, my phone. And then for my final evening, I went on a long walk to watch the sunset. This was on the recommendation of the loveliest viewer that I met, Natalie. We met in Boston Park and had a long chat, and she recommended I go down to the Charles River Esplanade. I'm not saying that right, I know. It was just exceptional. So this brings me to my final day in Boston, and I thought I would give you a room tour before I leave, because this B&B is wonderful. It's called the College Club of Boston, and used to be a women's college. They host lectures and academic talks sometimes, and each of the rooms is inspired by a different college. They also host single travellers as well as having double rooms, which was perfect for me. I had a shared bathroom, but that was more than okay. So first of all, of course, there is this beautiful antique desk, and I just love all of the details here. These globe bookends are also stunning. Then there was a very comfortable armchair. Honestly, the cushion was so soft, and I really enjoyed reading whilst I was staying here. Here is the bookshelf. It's just next to the door, and I believe that these are partially books that people have left and then some that they've added. There are some gorgeous ones here. I like the Reader's Digest one. There's also this antique wardrobe. Then there was a bed, which I was expecting to be a single bed, but it was honestly more of a double bed. It was actually really big. And I just liked how there were lamps everywhere as well, all these vintage lamps. I think the best bit though is this window seat. I loved sitting here and reading. The view was just incredible. Like, it looked out over these trees on Commonwealth Avenue, and you could see the spire of the church. So I would highly recommend College Club of Boston if you're ever in the area. It's my last morning here and I'm set to check out in about 50 minutes. I was originally only going to stay for 4 nights, but I ended up extending my stay by a further 2 nights. It feels a little bit like a boarding house in the early 1900s or late 1800s. In Little Women, when Jo moves to New York and she's in a boarding house, it feels like that. It's exactly what I expected for Jo then. So there's a real whimsy about it, and it feels very familiar and strangely nostalgic because it reminds me of this place that I've read about, and I really love places like that. You know, when it feels like you've visited somewhere already because you've seen it in books. A long way of saying that I'm very sad to be leaving, but I'm also excited because my next location is Amherst, where I'm going to be working with the Emily Dickinson Museum for a week. Honestly, I can't even believe that I can say that. Anyway, I've got, as I say, I've got an hour. I've packed now, I'm all ready, but I want to do a few quick bits before I go. I started this last night and then I finished it in bed this morning. The Novel in You, A Novelist's Guide to Writing Better Fiction by Rosalind Brackenbury. And I used washi tape to mark a few bits that I thought were like interesting or that I wanted to make a note of. So I'm just going to go through that quickly and write that up because obviously this is their book, so I can't take it with me and do that later. Then for the remainder of the time, I'm going to do some writing, work on my book for a little bit. So that brings me to the end of my time in Boston. I'm in the States for another few weeks though, and I can't wait to share the next part of this adventure with you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a productive week.